Good morning. My name is Margaret Zavala. I'm the co-chair for, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I am the co-chair of People for Pima Community College. As a PCC graduate, I know Pima College very well. I also have 4 children who have attended or are attending PCC at this time. To begin our press conference, I'd like to introduce Senator Sally Gonzalez to do our blessing.
Dios enseñamo, Inepo Sally Gonzalez Tepiac. Good morning. I am Sally Gonzalez, and I'd like to thank the organization, the People for PCC, for inviting me to this event and asking me to do the prayer. Please join me. I just wanted, for those of you who are not familiar with sage, sage is just a spiritual plant that we use to bless ourselves as well as the room, and to bring in good vibes and good spirits. So that's all it is. Thank you. Please join me as we ask our Creator to bless us today. Glorious and blessed Creator, we place our work and ourselves into your hands. Anoint our creativity, our ideas, our energy, so that even the smallest task may bring you honor. Creator, when we are challenged, guide us. When we are weary, energize us. May the work that we do and the way that we do it bring hope, life, courage to all of us that were brought together this morning. We ask you, Creator, to bless us with wisdom, with commitment, compassion, courage, and strength. Rooted in your love, may your face illuminate all activities done in your name. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Sally, for these words of wisdom and strength. Good morning. My name is Gloria Jean Ramirez. I'm a University of Arizona graduate in education, and I've taught at TUSD for 28 years. Thank you for being here today. People for PCC, our community group of concerned citizens, strongly support keeping our community college strong and inclusive for all the community. Unfortunately, there is no state or county agency that oversees PCC and the state other community colleges. Therefore, we monitor how PCC is being governed and administered. Today's news conference is our report to the people of Pima College. Before our presentation, I'd like to recognize 3 members of our group who serve or have served in public office. Please stand as I introduce you. State Senator Sally Gonzalez, former State Senator and PCC Board Member Luis Armando Gonzalez, and former State Senator and PCC Board Member, and current PCC Board Member who's worked earnestly to serve his constituents and all of Pima County, Luis L. Gonzalez. Pima College was established a half-century ago after approval by county voters. Thus, as a people's college, it must serve all of our community. Personally, I have very fond memories of the very initiation of Pima College. My mother-in-law graduated from there as a health assistant, and then she went on to work at TUSD for many, many years. That was the first, when she graduated, was the very first time that my children, my husband and I, attended a graduation from Pima College. And I still remember how proud we felt to show our children how important education is. And that foundation they provided for my family personally has been really, really important in our lives. Can you imagine how many other lives have been touched and improved and strengthened by the fact that we have Pima Community College? That's why it is so important that we save it, strengthen it for our community and our families in the future. Now, to review some of the glaring problems at PCC is our second co-chair, Paloma McKenna. Paloma is a graduate of South Point Catholic High School and PCC. She studied online at NAU and is working to transfer to the U of A. Thank you, Paloma.
Thank you. We salute the professors and staff. The governance of PCC, however, is another story, largely hidden and obscured by a PCC public relations blitz. After close scrutiny of the college, our group finds that PCC's decision makers have created an expanding web of problems, shortcomings, and failures. Those decision makers are led by Chancellor Lee Lambert. Enabling Mr. Lambert's action are 3 members of the PCC governing board who apply an automatic rubber stamp to his actions. They are Demian Klinko, Meredith Hay, and board chair Catherine Ripley. Their combined actions are having a negative impact on Pima County taxpayers and on everyone who attends PCC. We are not alone in our assessment of PCC's governance. The college's accrediting agency, the Higher Learning Commission, conducted an on-site investigation of PCC's governance last spring and will soon issue its findings. On August 29th on KLD Channel 13, investigative reporter Valerie Gavassos provided some of the HLC's findings, as stated in the Commission's draft report. In one section, the HLC team wrote, faculty and staff voiced their opinions that PCC had embraced an institutional culture of fear, bullying, and intimidation, and that the PCC Office of Conflict Resolution was an ineffective body. Let me repeat that alarming phrase. The PCC had embraced an institutional culture of fear, bullying, and intimidation. The Higher Learning Commission also found a rift within the board. Regrettably, the Chancellor has tried to blame board members Maria Garcia and Luis L. Gonzalez for that rift. That characterization is absurd and very unfair. Mrs. Garcia and Mr. Gonzalez are fulfilling their board responsibilities by challenging the Chancellor's proposals when they believe those proposals aren't in PCC's and the county's best interest. And for complying with their responsibilities, the other 3 board members have been belittled and disparaged. Lack of respect for the 2 minority board members led Mr. Gonzalez to file a formal complaint to the HLC. In that complaint, he wrote, quote, "As a member of the Pascua-Yaqui tribe, I did not seek my position on the board of a post-secondary institution with an expectation that I would face the same discriminatory behavior I have faced throughout my life." End of quote. Unfortunately, that disrespect continues to this day. In the draft report, the HLC recommended monitoring of the college's governing structure and greater transparency. The latest example of the Chancellor's lack of transparency was revealed in the KLLD report. The Chancellor refused to be interviewed on camera, but instead pressured KLLD's management not to air the reports. In other words, Lee Lambert wanted to suppress the press. Doesn't Lee Lambert, who has worked as a civil rights lawyer, believe in the First Amendment? People4PCC has examined this performance record of Mr. Lambert since he became Chancellor in 2013, and this is what we have found. Students have been hammered by tuition and fees increasing every year. In fact, tuition has risen 25% during the Chancellor's tenure. This has hit low-income students especially hard at a college with a race ethnicity breakdown of 47% Latino, 37% white, 5% black, 3% Asian, and 2% Native American. Pima County residents are now paying 25% more in property taxes than in 2013 as they're shared to support PCC. So let's remember, decisions made by the Chancellor and the board majority affect our tax bills. PCC's enrollment plunged 29% from 2013, Lambert's first year, through 2019, before the effects of the pandemic. That percentage drop was the second worst among all Arizona community colleges. The college's enrollment this year is finally showing slight improvement. But what about the Chancellor's salary? Does it reflect the enrollment decline? No. The board majority, Klinko, Hay, and Ripley, have lavished the Chancellor with one raise after another. His base salary is $348,000, much more than either Tucson City Manager or the Pima County Administrator. The Chancellor's total compensation package is more than $400,000. In addition, the board majority has approved a rare 5-year revolving contract to the Chancellor. Something else has been occurring in PCC. The Chancellor, with approval of Klinko, Hay, and Ripley, has allocated more than $100 million to build the vocational and technical side of the college's program. We do not oppose vocational and technical training, but we do strongly oppose the overemphasis on these programs, while other essential academic programs are neglected. As we pointed out earlier, this neglect has left an unbalanced curriculum, and due to academic programs having been eliminated or required courses not being readily available. I was enrolled in Pima Community College doing part-time work and part-time school. I was a student there from 2016 to 2021. I noticed that in 2016, there was an abundance of classes such as Native American Studies, Yoeme, which is the language of the Yaqui people, other languages, and a rich selection of culturally relevant classes. I was fortunate to take Mexican American Studies before it was completely removed from registration. As the years went by, the number of classes dwindled and there were fewer and fewer culturally rich classes. I believe that taking away these classes puts the students at Pima Community College and the whole community at a disadvantage. Now I'd like to welcome Lazarus Zavala to speak.
Hello. I began classes at Pima Community College in the fall of 2019. I've been trying really hard since then to accomplish my goals as a student in order to get my associate's degree in digital arts. I'm trying really hard to better myself mentally and emotionally for the future that I so desperately desire. My career goal is to become a graphic designer. However, working to get my PCC degree has been a difficult experience that has brought constant frustration and stress in my life. I have had to often scramble to fill my class schedule with required courses for my degree. Many times, those classes were not even available. Now, after 3.5 years and 7 semesters at PCC, I have almost completed my required classes, but I have not been able to register for DAR 2AA, that is the Digital Arts Business Capstone class required for my degree plan. The first time I tried to sign up for the course was back during the fall of 2020, but this was when the pandemic had already begun, or was starting at the time. Everything went virtual and no longer in person. At first, DAR 2AA, among a few other DAR-related classes, weren't available at the time. That left me discouraged, having to look for classes that could fit my schedule. Eventually, in-person classes returned during the fall of 2021. I managed to tackle some classes, but I still couldn't get my business capstone class. I don't understand why a second session of class wasn't open up. Then, just this spring semester of 2022, I saw that the business capstone was there, but the class had filled up so quickly I couldn't receive a seat. I have now started my 4th year at PCC in what should have been a 2-year program. 2 years. That is time that I will never get back. Time that I should have been spending with my family, time that should have been used for more things than having to worry on whether or not if I was going to graduate or not. I'm hoping that I'll be able to get a seat in the required class next spring in order to get my degree. I filed a complaint with the Higher Learning Commission about the missing required courses. The HLC replied last month that it would look into the situation. I have not heard anything since then. Future students should not have to go through the same frustrating experience as I did. Thank you. Now to describe her background and her PCC experience is my mother, Margaret Zavala.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a single mother of 4 young adults, as mentioned. My 4 children and I have all attended or are all attending PCC. I began my journey at Pima Community College in the spring of 2014. I had my heart set on getting my associate's degree in American Indian Studies. My children and I are all enrolled Pasquayaki members. Before I was finally able to achieve my dream of a degree, I experienced a nightmarish journey because of classes that were listed in the college catalog but were discontinued. I grew up in Fresno in California's Central Valley, where my family and I were mistaken for Mexicanos. I knew that I belonged to a tribe because my grandparents spoke the language fluently. I wanted to know why they wouldn't teach me that language, that special Yaqui language of Yoane. Instead, they always spoke to me in Spanish or English. I wanted to know why they wouldn't teach me the language. My mother always said, just don't go back there when you hear us speaking that language. It wasn't until I was a young woman that I understood that my grandfather had faced discrimination and had been beaten for speaking Yoane. And when he had tried to get field work, he and his family were turned away because they were Indians. So he moved his family to Fresno in order to feed his family, and he wanted to protect family members from racism by not teaching us Yoeme. Instead, we were taught Spanish because Mexicans were able to get work in the fields, picking grapes or doing other back-breaking field work. At just 4 years old, I began working in the fields, laying out large pieces of paper so that my uncles could toss the ripened grapes onto the brown paper, grapes that would eventually become California raisins. As Yaquis, we were accustomed to hard work and hard times. Our people had come from the motherland of Sonora, Mexico, where they had been punished by the Mexican government. I relocated to Tucson in 2005 with my 4 children and their father. With only a high school diploma, I was only able to find work at a Circle K. After that, my tribe paid for me to go to school to be a certified dental assistant. I was very proud to be able to work on the Paso Yaqui reservation for 6 years. I realized that I had to go back to school to set an example for my children. I didn't want them to experience the backbreaking work that I knew all too well. My 2 sisters and I all have excruciating back pain from lifting heavy loads at a very young age. I have my spine practically fused to my left hip now due to this hard work. In 2014, I registered at PCC. I was told that I'd be able to complete my American Indian Studies program. I was thrilled that my core studies would be in Yaqui history. I was so excited that I'd be able to learn my language, and I wouldn't have to hide behind closed doors. As my grandparents had done. Naively, I carried around the 2014 catalog with me everywhere. That excitement dwindled as the years went by, and my core classes were discontinued. I was never able to take Yoeme as a class at PCC, as had been promised. I wrote letter after letter to college administrators asking for my core classes. I was told by different administrative people that no such degree existed. After nearly 4 years, I still needed a class that would qualify me for my American Indian Studies degree. What would I do? Tired of my pestering, PCC administrators finally agreed to let me take an independent studies class. I had to create my own class in Yaqui history, which my daughter Mariah ended up taking after. She has now moved on and got her degree from NAU, which I'm very proud of, but she took the class that I created. That was not at all what I had signed up for. Finally, I received my associate's degree in American Indian Studies, and I also received a liberal arts degree. It has been a frustrating struggle, a journey that took me 4 years to complete, which would have been a 2-year degree. Now it's very disheartening that my son is encountering the same types of issues. Lazarus and I both lost time and money because of PCC's failures. Failures to provide the required courses. We can never recover that lost time. This is precisely why I joined this People4PCC group, to advocate for myself and for my son. But what about all the other young folks who don't have an advocate in their corner? Even within our small group, People4PCC, we have 4 instances of children of members being delayed in getting a degree by lack of classes. This leads us to believe this problem is widespread among PCC students. PCC must fully meet its obligation to consistently offer all the courses required for a certificate or degree. Lazarus and I do not want other students to confront the roadblocks that we faced. Thus far, we have written the HLC letter we both have. Mine was dismissed immediately because I didn't write the letter within a 2-year period. And thus far, we're still waiting for a reply for Lazarus. but I'm hoping that it's going to be beneficial. But I think we've done everything that we could to try to advocate, and yet we're still being asked to wait yet another semester. And I think that it is unfortunate. I am so grateful for PCC. My 4 children, including 2 others, are still at PCC. I have 2 pieces about to be done, so the 3 of us will be done there. But it hasn't been easy, and it's not a 2-year program. So, thank you for listening, thank you for being here, and then I'll go ahead and have Carmen come back up. Thank you.
At this time, I invite Mario Gonzalez to wrap up our news conference. Mario, a U of A graduate, worked for the City of Tucson for 30 years in community development and other departments. He was chair of CFAIR, the predecessor group of our organization.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Let's recap the Chancellor's administration and governance. PCC's tuition, fees, and property taxes on residents have increased consistently, while other county governmental entities have reduced them. The Chancellor's salary and total compensation have soared, while enrollment has dropped sharply, and PCC has neglected its obligation to offer courses required in certain programs, as the testimony of these 2 young people here. In 2 federal court cases, judges determined that the Chancellor had violated their civil rights, resulting in settlement payments of $150,000 and $200,000 respectively. That's your money. That's your tax dollars. And the guy pays them out because of his blunders. Interestingly enough, as soon as those court settlements came through, the board majority gave him, Lambert, a $50,000 raise. And early this year, a new federal court lawsuit was filed against the Chancellor and PCC. In this lawsuit, filed on behalf of William Ward, a former Vice Chancellor for Facilities, his lawyer states, quote, Chancellor Lambert terminated Mr. Ward's employment because Mr. Ward was candid with the board and about the fact that the train company had an unfair advantage during the bidding process. The bidding process of a $23 million program. $23 million corruption going on that contract, on the bidding process. He had been removed from the process because he was not willing to ignore procedures and violations of the bidding and purchasing process to favor the train company. End of quote. For those not familiar with train, spelled T-R-A-N-E, the company specializes in heating, cooling, and energy control systems. From documents obtained in our public records request, we learned that a train employee had exchanged 190 emails with the Chancellor and other PCC administrators that were involved in the process, in the bidding process. These emails came even before the request for proposal was made public, meaning Train had advantage knowledge before other companies. These emails also showed that a Train employee offered to have his company check out the Chancellor's personal AC at his home. Mr. Lambert, why didn't you do your required duty and report to the PCC board about this questionable offer? And why was train allowed to stay in the bidding competition after the questionable offer? Why was the facilities director, William Ward, removed from the RFP process? The emails show that he was taken entirely off the bidding purchasing process just hours after the same train employee that made that offer complained that Ward had shown a reluctance to cooperate with trains. Mr. Lambert has operated freely with no accounting to the people of Pima County and must end. We demand that the Chancellor provide a full accounting, maybe by following and answering these following questions. Considering the Chancellor's focus and the spending of more than $120 million on the vocational technical side of the college, you've probably heard the Centers of Excellence, $125 million of your money. Yours and the students' money. The basis of the budget of PCC is taxes, your taxes, and tuition from our students. They put all this money into the Centers of Excellence, and they let the academic portion of the college go down the drain. They don't have enough classes to complete degree programs that they can transfer to the U of A, testified by the 2 people here, 3 people. Now, another question that we have is, why did the Chancellor travel to the West Coast 3 times in the last 15 months or so for interviews for a new chancellorship position at that area? Jobs he never got. In fact, it's even questionable whether they were even offered the job, even though the PR spinning department of the college said that they had offered him the job and they wanted him to stay, blah, 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 blah. Now, he obviously traveled on your dime and my dime because the college paid for his travels. Without official board notification, the Chancellor, on his own entered into an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, and had the college pay an initial fee of $25,000 to a private for-profit company, a company that he himself helped create as the chair. This multi-college training venture is called Unmuddle and is the flagship product of a social tech, i.e. a Delaware for-profit company. Delaware meaning that they were incorporated in Delaware. We pose 2 questions to the Chancellor. You often claim to practice transparency in your work. By the way, he never disclosed that he was part of the on-model system until a year after he had made that $25,000 payment. Never told the board of his involvement with on-model, with NC3, social tech. Never told anybody. One of our members found a couple of articles. I think one is the Higher Learning Commission or Higher Learning, whatever, national magazines. They saw an article there, and that's how one of our members found that, sent it to the 2 board members, in fact, sent it to him, and that's where all heck broke loose. At last count, under this unmodel program, the unmodel program was something like a registration type program that you go through, where there are multiple colleges involved. And by the way, we never found any intergovernmental agreements with the other colleges. But yet the bulk of the work was being done by employees of the college, Ian Rohr being one of the persons. Well, basically what that is, in the absence of official permission to do that, or agreements and or contracts, seems to us, actually, that it's a violation of the gift clause, which means that you cannot use college resources for the use of any individual or any one company or whatever, unless it's approved by the board with the good reasons. Now, the young model program was set up, and at the last count, now he paid $25,000 to begin this with the MOU. The program is on. The last count that we had, I think it was the last registration area, not this one, but the last one prior to this. And we're asking the Chancellor, how can he explain this? The college has paid over $100,000 for that program, besides the $25,000. And to our count, only 2 students have gone through that program. He needs to answer that. Mr. Lambert, why did you refuse to go on camera with Valerie Cavazos for KOD reports? What are you hiding? Why do you continue to spend taxpayers' dollars by hiring lawyers and various consultants to try to muzzle, intimidate, scare anyone that opposes your views? Seafair was the author of a 500-page report it's entitled Failure of Governance at Pima College. As soon as he read that report, he hired Fairhang and I can't remember maybe somebody knows the name. Fairhang and something or other. Reputable law
Metcalf.
firm.
Metcalf?
Metcalf and Fairhang, yes. He hired that firm to send me personally, Luis A. Gonzalez personally, Soaring Hawk personally, an intimidating and threatening letter that we should not have written that report. Who paid Metcalf and Fairhang? You did, with your tax dollars. So we need to raise tuition, raise property taxes if we don't have enough money for our programs, but we have enough money to hire these consultants and these attorneys to try to muzzle us, intimidate us, and violate our First Amendment rights. That's your Chancellor. Why do you continue to spend those kinds of monies? He needs to answer those questions, because, or else the board needs to ask, and the board needs to hold him accountable for it. When Luis and Maria bring those things up, the board majority muzzles them by outvoting them. It's a 3-2 majority, and if they have a question on the meeting, the 2 boards can knock it down, and that's what has happened. Prior to that, the lone person representing the community there was Luis A. Gonzalez. He could not even get a motion on the floor. He didn't have enough to get a second. And so they would muzzle him, they would let him talk. At a recent board retreat, this is a PCC board retreat. Both Mr. Garcia and Mrs. Garcia and Mr. Gonzalez, prior to entering the meeting room, were searched with a wand. Okay? The security people that were there were police, as we understand it, from the college. Under the pretext they were wanted, Maria and Luis were wanted, were searched. Why do you search someone? Probably because, hey, they're Mexicans and they're Indians, natives, and they're known to carry guns. They're known to carry knives, and they probably will use them. So we better confiscate those before they enter our meeting. That's what they did.
Misconceptions.
I'm sorry?
Misconceptions.
Under the pretext that they had added security because two of the majority board members, Klinko and Ripley, had been threatened, and they feared for their lives. And the chancellor, there was a power outage of his house, and he could not go out because he was afraid. Now, we don't know if they were afraid of the two board members. So, Maria and Luis, at the last board meeting, the meeting after that retreat, now we don't know if the other board members were searched. But if they were the ones that were afraid, I'm assuming that they weren't. Maybe they were, I don't know. But at the next board meeting, Maria called for a full investigation. It was on the news. The college did not respond. Valerie Cavazos requested the college for a statement. They gave a regular statement on writing. Chancellor did not face the cameras, neither did Ripley. They just said that protocol says that if there's a threat, that they report it to their police department. Since then, we have not heard anything. I don't know if I don't think the two board members have heard anything. So we don't know whether it was a hoax, a ploy, or it was a real. But we demand that the board majority and the chancellor provide us documentation as to the threats and who they reported to. They should have reported it at least to the local police, as it happened outside the jurisdiction of the college, and at least the FBI. These are elected officials, supposedly they were threatened. In a recent draft report of the Higher Learning Commission, faculty and staff voiced opinions that PCC had embraced an institutional culture of fear, bullying, and intimidation. Ms. Lambert, was the information shared with the Forbes company, the people that reported that the college was the most ideal place to work for in Arizona? We ask you that question. In summary, the actions of the chancellor and the enabling board majority have put PCC educational system in jeopardy and at risk. Pima County residents deserve a candid accounting regarding these vital questions from the chancellor. However, People4PCC has no confidence that the chancellor will suddenly wake up and smell the roses and be honest and be transparent. He will not answer those questions. Therefore, it's time for a new chancellor for PCC. A chancellor who will be transparent. A chancellor who will increase PCC's enrollment and required course offerings. And a chancellor who will be accountable to all taxpayers, employees, and students of Pima County. So, we call for the immediate resignation of the chancellor. Yes, the chancellor must go. Beyond that, change has to come to the board. 2 seats are on the November's election ballot. We are happy to announce that board member Hay is not on the ballot. However, Mr. Klinko is seeking re-election, and he does not deserve a new term. He has not performed his due diligence. Instead, he's rubber stamped the chancellor ideas anytime. He's shown that he's not looking out for the best interest of all county residents. We have a very, very strong feeling that he treats minorities with almost racist encounters, misogynistic statements against Mrs. Garcia. We don't believe he deserves another seat at that board. We must point out at this time that Clinco, in his latest financial report from the county, reported that he had amassed $155,000 to his re-election campaign. $155,000. Wow. It's a ridiculously high amount for a Pima County or Pima College election. I don't know what his opponent or the other two members of the that are running for office have collected. But in any event, in the report we found out that the business community were the highest contributors to Mr. Clinco. There's a law that puts a cap on how much individuals can donate to a campaign, and it's $6,450 per person. And just looking very specifically at the report, Jim Click and his wife Vicky, Humberto Lopez and his wife Sarina, each of them contributed the maximum amount of $6,450. Almost $26,000 between those four people contributed to Clinco's campaign. You guys need to ask the question, why? Why? The centers of excellence? Might be deals out there under the table, who knows? But that's a heck of a lot of money. This is not your money, by the way. This is not tuition or taxes. This is their money, the rich people, okay? But anyways, he doesn't deserve another term. We encourage the community to vote for candidates who support the needs of the college, students, and residents. This is not what David Clinco has done. In short, the status quo at PCC is not working for the people of Pima County, and change is essential. Chancellor Lee Lambert and Clinco must go. Thank you. For more information and more details, you can go to our visitor website at people4PCC.org. There's a lot of other stuff in there that we didn't talk about either.